Week 2 of the fantasy football season. Here's the top 15 tight ends I'm ranking this week. Number 1, Brock Bowers of the Las Vegas Raiders. Bowers last week, he went out there, did his thing once again, over 100 yards receiving, then took a helmet to the knee, and then next drive was running, and that knee just gave out a little bit. So the reports are he's day-to-day, which obviously a major injury he avoided was Brock Bowers. But the tricky thing with him is it's a Monday night ball game, but obviously if he plays every week, he's going to be my number 1 ranked tight end. Number 2, Trey McBride of the Arizona Cardinals. So last week, Trey McBride, it was a down game for his standards. Still the number 1 option in the passing game, I believe, for this Arizona Cardinal team. This week, a good matchup versus the Carolina Panthers that can't stop anyone. And at home, they've been a way better offense than they've been on the road over the last couple seasons, is Arizona. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if McBride goes out there, has a big performance. Number 3, Sam Laporta of the Detroit Lions. So Sam Laporta was the only bright spot in the offense last week for this Lion team, where they got blown out by the Green Bay Packers in a late garbage time touchdown. Still, they lost by 14 in that game. So Sam Laporta, last year was a down year for him compared to his rookie season, where he broke, at the time, all the rookie tight end records. And this week, a good matchup versus division foe, the Chicago Bears. So I think Laporta this season, he's going to be more consistent. Him and Goff, they were on the same page. He targeted a lot in last week's ball game. And this week versus the Bears and back home for Detroit, I think he has a good game for Tyler Warren of the Indianapolis Colts. So Tyler Warren debut, had a nice game with Indianapolis. So Daniel Jones, a good fit for Tyler Warren, better than if Anthony Richardson was going to be in their quarterback. And they don't have a lot of options in the passing game. I know they got Michael Pittman, Josh Downs. Pittman had a nice game last week. Downs didn't do much. And Warren, they took him with a high pick in the NFL draft, 14th overall for a reason. So he's going to be a big part of this offense. And like I said, last week he had a good game. And this week, even in a tough matchup versus the Denver Broncos, I think he could go out there and make some noise. Number 5, Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. Travis Kelce last week, a long touchdown saved his day, or he wouldn't have done anything in that ball game versus the Chargers in Brazil. This week, Super Bowl rematch with Philadelphia coming to town. Travis Kelce, he possibly could be the number 1 target in this offense. Worthy banged up with a shoulder injury. He's day-to-day. We don't know for sure if he's going to play after going shoulder-to-shoulder on a crossing route with Kelce last week. And also Hollywood Brown, he had a good game, 10 for 99 last week. But I think Kelce, they got to get him more involved in this one. And versus Philly team, you got to work that middle of the field. So I think Kelce this week have another decent ball game. Number 6, TJ Hawkinson of the Minnesota Vikings. So Hawkinson last week non-existent, only 3 catches, 15 yards. And the offense took about 3 quarters to get going. That's when J.J. McCarthy led this offense back, and they won the ball game on Monday night at the Chicago Bears. So this week, a good matchup versus Atlanta. This could be a high-scoring game between these two teams. And Hawkinson, we saw it last season where some weeks he didn't have good games, and some weeks he had the bigger games. Still not 100%, I believe, as well, coming off the ACL injury a few seasons ago. Number 7, Tucker Kraft for the Green Bay Packers. So arguably, Tucker Kraft could be the number 1 option in this passing game for this Green Bay Packer team. Last week, it was a silent game, though. If he didn't score the touchdown, he really didn't do anything, was Tucker Kraft. And this week versus Washington, they know they got to put points on the board. Last week versus Detroit, they knew they had to put points on the board, and the job was done where they won 27-13. But like I said, Tucker Kraft, good route runner, good hands. And this receiving room has been inconsistent for a couple seasons now over there in Green Bay. Matthew Golden, he didn't show much in his debut. Jaden Reed did score a touchdown, but his snap count still was low in that one. They got Romeo Doubs, Dontayvion Wicks. So Tucker Kraft, like I said, he could carve out a good role weekly for this Packer team. Number 8, Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. Mark Andrews last week, he only had 1 target, but he was on the field majority of the snaps. And once again, Isaiah Likely, it's unlikely he's going to play in this game. So this week with a good matchup versus the Cleveland Browns, and they should put a lot of points on the board. Once again, is Baltimore. It wouldn't be surprising to me to see Mark Andrews bounce back in this game. Last season, we saw he got off to a slow start first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, and then finished the year still with 11 touchdowns. He's still a big touchdown threat, still a big red zone target. He's Mark Andrews, and this week, I think he goes out there and has a good ball game. Number 9, Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles. So Dallas Goedert, he was solid last week. Number 1 target in the receiving game last week was Dallas Goedert. With A.J. Brown not creating separation, not getting much going, Devonta Smith, he only had a few catches in that game as well. And this week here, it's a Super Bowl rematch going Arrowhead at the Kansas City Chiefs. And in this game, I think Kansas City, they're going to try, obviously, to keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket and throw the football. But Hurts and Goddard, they've had good rapport for many seasons now. Goddard's still a big target as well. Good yard after catch, tight end. And like I said, with their defense trying to shut down Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown, maybe that middle of the field could be open if they're playing zone or have a linebacker on them. This week, number 10, Dalton Kincaid of the Buffalo Bills. So Kincaid last week, 4 catches, 48 yards, found the end zone in that first drive for the Buffalo Bills to get them off to a good start in that shootout versus the Baltimore Ravens, which they came back from 15-1. And Kincaid last season got off to a good start, and then injuries did him in. So Kincaid, a former first-round pick a few seasons ago for Buffalo, maybe this could be the breakout year for him, because in my opinion, they still don't have a true number one target in the passing game. I know Keon Coleman had a monster game last week, but that was the first huge game we've seen from him really in his NFL career. Khalil Shakir, Joshua Palmer, they're not number one options for an offense. So Kincaid, as long as he's healthy and work in the middle of the field, even this week in a tougher matchup with the New York Jets, I think he could go out there, have a good ball game. Number 11, Hunter Henry of the New England Patriots. Hunter Henry as well possibly could be the number one target in the passing game for this New England Patriot team as the year goes on. Stephon Diggs, he played all right in his debut with the Patriots. Keyshawn Boutte had a big game, 103 yards receiving. Well, Hunter Henry and Drake May, ever since May stepped in as the quarterback last season, have good rapport, and a young quarterback's always going to rely on the tight end in big situations and on third down to go out there and make plays. So Hunter Henry, decent game last week. This week, a very good matchup in Miami, a defense that can't stop anyone. We saw the rookie Tyler Warren go out there, have a solid game, and I think Henry goes out there this week, has a good performance. Number 12, David Njoku of the Cleveland Browns. So with Harold Fannin Jr. moving up the rankings and played a lot of snaps last week, David Njoku's stock definitely dropped a little bit this week. So David Njoku, we know he's a freak athlete. We know him and Joe Flacco have had great rapport in his first run with the Cleveland Browns. But Fannin playing 55 snaps is definitely concerning a little bit for David Njoku, who only ended for 3 for 37 last week. But this week, I think they're going to throw a whole lot. They're going to be trailing early and often at Baltimore. And maybe Njoku has a turnaround game. 13, Zach Ertz of the Washington Commanders. Zach Ertz last week found the end zone. Him and Jaden Daniels, they've been locked in since Ertz joined the team last season. And Ertz, even in the latter part of his career, still a good route runner, still has good hands, and is a red zone threat. And this week at Green Bay on Thursday night, where usually it is high scoring, I think he goes out there and has another decent performance. Once again, number 14, Juwan Johnson of the New Orleans Saints. Juwan Johnson, he had a nice game last week. This Saint team most likely going to be trailing again versus San Francisco and have to throw a whole lot. And this team on paper, they have some guys that could go out there and make plays. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Alvin Kamara, obviously. And now with Taysom Hill, no timetable still for him to return. Juwan Johnson and this offense is going to play more the traditional way with the tight end position. Instead of wildcat and fancy formations, they're just going to go out there and try to throw that football down the field. So this week versus San Francisco, where they're going to be trailing early and often, I believe, is this New Orleans Saints team. I think Juwan Johnson could carve out a decent game once again. 15th and final tight end on rankings, Harold Fannin Jr. of the Cleveland Browns. So a lot of people hyped up about Fannin Jr. after a big week one. He played 55 snaps, outplayed David Njoku in that one with 7 catches, 63 yards on 9 targets. But we'll see if he could go out there again here in week 2 and do it as Fannin Jr. Just because he did it in week 1 doesn't mean he's going to play the same amount of snaps and get the amount of targets like he did in the first week. But like I said, he's a nice touted prospect coming out in the NFL draft. It was Fannin Jr. this season. And I think this week, if he could go out there once again, have a big game, he's going to be a player most likely owned in 70% or more fantasy leagues. So this week with chasing points could be another good opportunity for him to put up some numbers. That's the top 15 tight ends I'm ranking for week 2 of the fantasy football season.